Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Showcase. The main purpose of most programs is to inform viewers about exciting innovations and creative individuals across the fields of business, science, technology, education, and the arts. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guests Marc Howard and Peter Koutoujian. Marc is professor of government and law and the founding director of the Prisons and Justice Initiative at Georgetown University. He's also the founder and president of the Frederick Douglass Project for Justice, a nonprofit organization that creates a bridge of understanding through structured meetings and respectful conversations between people incarcerated and members of free society. Peter is a former member of the Massachusetts House of Representatives, and he now serves as the Middlesex County Sheriff. During the program, we're finding out why and how the Frederick Douglass Project for Justice came about and how it's grown, developed, and operates today. In the process, we'll come to better understand and appreciate the value and benefits of the Prison Visitation Program as a means of changing the public's perception of the criminal justice system by connecting with the humanity of incarcerated people. Let's start by meeting Marc and Peter and then learning all about the Frederick Douglass Project for Justice. Welcome. Delighted you're both able to be here. A couple of weeks ago, it was very interesting to first read about the Frederick Douglass Project for Justice and how the prison visitation program was being implemented at the Middlesex Jail and House of Correction. I'm eager to learn more about these efforts, both nationally and locally, and have you inform viewers. Before we do, I think it would be interest if each of you would very briefly share a little more about your backgrounds, professional interest, or current positions. Marc, would you please start?
Sure. Well, Jay, I've been a professor at Georgetown University for 2 decades now, but I started working in a completely different area, European politics. I had a personal interest in the area of prisons that really stems from my childhood friend, Marty Tanklett's wrongful conviction for double murder and his sentence to 50 years to life. And I believed that Marty was innocent, and I advocated for him. And I ultimately changed my life and went to law school as a tenured professor dedicated to getting my friend out of prison. Marty was exonerated, and together we've actually helped 7 other innocent people walk out of prison through a program we started, Making an Exoneree. But also during those times when I would visit Marty in prison, I'd sit in the visiting room and I would look around and I would see other people who presumably weren't innocent of the crimes they were convicted of, like Marty, but who had a humanity, and I would see them with their families. I would see their tears. I would see their laughter. I'd see their hugs. I'd see their love. And I felt something that really took me down another course in this direction, which was to really recognize the humanity of all incarcerated people. And so I started some programs at Georgetown where we have educational programs. We even have a Georgetown bachelor's degree program in a maximum security prison. We have several reentry programs. But I wanted to go beyond Georgetown, beyond DC as a local area, and really create something national, which led me to start the Frederick Douglass Project for Justice, where I'd really developed or almost stumbled upon, you could say, a magic formula, which is that when you bring outside people into a prison or jail to sit down with and connect with incarcerated people, that we all benefit and that we all see a better version of ourselves and what our society could be through this human connection. And that's what we've created. We're operating now in 8 states. We have 2 more coming online very soon this year, and probably another 5 by the end of the year. And we hope to be in the majority of states within 2 or 3 years, all across the country.
Oh, incredible. Congratulations on those efforts. Peter, welcome. Please share a little bit about your background, interest, or current position, please.
Sure. Thank you, Jay. It's great to be back on New TV as well, with you as well. Peter Koutoujian, for many that might not know much about me, I started as a public defender, then moving on to be a prosecutor right here in Middlesex County. Then elected to the House of Representatives, representing part of Newton for 14 years I served, during which time I served as the chairman of the Committee on Healthcare, which really informed me in so many ways about the issues that I face as sheriff, mental health, substance use disorder, trauma, just so many of the chronic illnesses that ail our society that lead people to be justice involved and incarcerated, which have allowed me to create some really unique and innovative programs that have been sort of cited across the country as best practices and been replicated as such as well. I then went on to get a master's degree. After my law degree, went on to get a master's degree at the Kennedy School, and then was initially appointed as sheriff by Governor Deval Patrick, and have now run 3 times since. I've been president of the Massachusetts Sheriff's Association, as well as president of the Major County Sheriffs of America. And that's how I came to know some people that had known of Marc and had been involved with Marc's programming. We reached out, and I can tell you more about that later, to find out more about this program, and decided we wanted to bring it right here to Massachusetts and Middlesex County.
Wonderful, wonderful. Marc, would you continue by highlighting some of the key features, components of the Frederick Douglass Project for Justice, please?
Yeah, so our program varies in every site because we sort of go in at the pleasure of, with the permission of the authorities there. And so we always adjust in terms of what they're able to do. And I should say that there's no better facility and no better partner than Sheriff Koutoujian's Middlesex County in terms of the access that they give us and the opportunity that they afford our participants from the community to come inside and really see the amazing programming they have there. So it's a great partnership. But basically, members of the community, and that can be anyone, by the way, that can be people who are in church groups, that can be just anyone who signs up. It can be students. We have a lot of student and classes that go in. It can be members of book clubs, or retirees, or really any age and stage in life. We think that everyone can benefit from going to visit a jail or a prison. So what they do is they go inside. There's a tour where they get to walk through. And I should highlight that this is not about a zoo tour or prison tourism in any way. This is about a solemn understanding that this is where people who have made mistakes and who are being punished for those mistakes are living. And so we make sure, and everybody who comes through has to participate in a training video and really understand that this is a difficult experience and to take it very seriously. And so there is some form of a tour, and at Middlesex, it's very extensive, and I really, again, appreciate that partnership. And then we go inside a big space that can be, in Middlesex, it's a gym. In other places, it's a visiting room or a chapel, just varies based on the facility. And everyone sits in a circle. And there will often be about 15 to 20 outside participants and roughly the same number of inside participants. And we have introductions and icebreaker questions, and we go around the circle, and everybody will say something about themselves and answer one of the questions, and we mix up the questions just to keep it interesting each time. And then after that, we go into small groups for about an hour, where that'll be about 6 to 8 people in a given group, where they go very deep into questions. And I should say, these are questions that are meant to basically connect on a human level, where we'll talk about things like, who are mentors in your life? Who's an inspiration? How would you define family? Who are your role models? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Things that are really get people to go deep, that are honestly really interesting for outside participants too, because they say, well, we live in a superficial world where everyone just says, hi, how are you? Fine, thank you. How are you? These conversations, people get transported really to, as if they were sort of in a restaurant or in just a nice setting, really connecting with new friends. And it's a really beautiful experience for everyone. And then at the end, we come back for about another 20 minutes or so in a full circle for reflections. And that's just kind of, we open the floor up and people share their thoughts, and you'd be amazed at how touching the comments are, where certainly the inside participants, and notice, by the way, Jay, I never say inmates. I'm really trying to use positive language that stresses people's common humanity. So it's inside participants, outside participants. And they'll just show a level of appreciation for feeling human again, for feeling that people care about them, and for feeling like they have a future outside, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to prepare them to come home. 95% of people in prison or jail are getting out and will be entering our community, and we want them to succeed. We want them to be prepared. We want them to get jobs, to have families, to have successful, prosperous lives. And so they express a level of appreciation that's really beautiful. And for the outside participants, they say this is extraordinary. I can't tell you how many times I've heard the term life-changing to describe the experience of what it's like to go in a prison or jail and meet incarcerated people. So it's really beautiful. And we just want to keep spreading this goodness that we feel is going to change the narrative about incarceration and incarcerated people, to recognize them as our brothers and sisters, as our, sons and daughters, and our, cousins, basically, and loved ones.
Fabulous. Is it a one-time meeting or is it ongoing?
It's a
throughout
one-time
the
meeting
year?
for the outside participants. They come in one time. For the inside participants, they are in cohorts where they will be for a certain number of months participating in the program for each of the visits. And the visits take place, it varies. Sometimes it's about once a month. Some places it's every couple of weeks. Sometimes it's even every week, depending on the area and the demand from outside. Usually we start slow and then build up in frequency over time.
Thank you.
But it's always new participants from the outside.
Mhm. Peter, what attracted you to the project?
Well, in Middlesex, I had mentioned before, we've been very innovative and transparent about our programming. One thing that Marc has heard me say a number of times is that a jail is not just a fortress on a hill, it's part of a community. And if you don't engage the community, then, much is lost, right? The community will not understand what we're doing, and those that are inside won't understand that the community can actually care about them, right? Both are really important for the appropriate and proper reentry of people, but also for the humanizing of both sides of these. So we have had a number of specialty programs, and we've got the first young adult offender program of its type in the country, the only incarcerated military veterans program here in the state, one of the few treatment programs in the country. We were one of the first medication-assisted treatment programs for the treatment of opioid addiction in the country. New family support services. We're actually about to start an older adults unit. So we've always been on the cutting edge of these things, and then collecting data to show the efficacy of each of these programs, and then to see if they're working or not, making corrective actions, but also then appropriate replication in proper settings. So we're always open about this, and I love having the community involved in what we do. I love having tours. We always were trying to bring in people, but as Marc said, you don't want to make it about prison tourism, really. You want it to build an understanding. And so we would do that. And each time you bring in a group of people from the outside, it's an operational consideration. So it's not always, you don't just bring them in. There's a whole operational side that you need to do too. What this allows us is to create Marc has allowed us to do what I've done a bit more sporadically, to do it systematically, in a better way, to invite more and different members of the community from different organizations that would care very much. And that's really the beauty of it. So you've got your faith base, you've got your advocacy groups, you've got just members of the public, you've got public servants, policymakers, journalists, and so many others that can participate and see what we're doing inside, to value what we're doing inside in a way that they really didn't understand. And we've actually literally had people that have come on behalf of some of these organizations that have walked into the facility with a face that looked like they were already prepared to be unhappy about what they saw, and then left truly ebullient with their experience, so much so that they actually asked to come back and visit a different part of our facility, but also writing an email the very next day saying what a great experience it was. So it is important, as Marc said, it's important for the community to see what we're doing. But the real value to this also is that the inside participants see that people care about them as human beings and that they matter in a way that sometimes I think they forget about because they're inside with us and they don't understand that people actually still can care about them while they're with us.
How did you go about choosing, or how do you now choose the participants from both outside and inside to be part of this experience?
We make sure that they have to be participating in their programming, and basically on good behavior. But quite honestly, we are very thoughtful about making it a cohort, so that you're not just getting sort of the least criminally culpable folks up here. We have a mixture of the sentenced population. We also have pretrial people, and some of the charges can range right up there to the very top of the charges. So we have them meeting with people that are charged with a variety of crimes, and we're making sure, you know, we don't speak about their crimes while they're inside. That's not really part of the discussion, but they are representative of all the types of crimes and the types of people that we have in our facility.
Both Peter and Marc, how has the collaboration worked between the national organization and Middlesex?
Well, I'd say it's worked beautifully, first off, because Peter and I get along really well and share the same vision, same understanding about the humanity of incarcerated people. And I want to make clear that, you know, my role in this is not in any way to be attacking or criticizing leaders. It's a really tough job. You know, there's a separate process that's a court system, and, you know, I have my views on how that works and doesn't work, and length of sentences and so on. But the bottom line is people are sent to a facility, and then there are leaders there, and a sheriff, certainly in charge of a county jail, has to take care of the people who are sent to that space. And I think Sheriff Koutoujian does an extraordinary job in supporting people, supporting the families. I see the way he interacts with people. I see the way they interact with him. It's a level of respect that honestly is quite rare. And we look for partners, and we're fully nonpartisan and non-ideological. We just want people who care about human beings and want to make their lives better. And so I'm really fortunate that we have this partnership based on trust and based on a mutual understanding. And you know, we've been able to build that in other states and other areas, localities. And Sheriff Koutoujian has also introduced us to others, where we'll be starting soon and have strong connections, because, you know, I think he's seen where my values lie. He's seen me in action, so to speak, in the facilities, and knows that really what I'm trying to bring about is something that we should all care about, which is safer communities based on people coming home and being ready to succeed and stay out of prison and jail and stay out of a life of crime.
That's right, Jay. You know, Marc and I were just recently at, I was at a sheriff's conference, and Marc was in DC. And so we got together, but then we also got together with at least one sheriff that I think is seemed very interested in participating in the program, from Texas. You know, I got it from Genesee County in Michigan, from Sheriff Chris Swanson, who was a dynamic leader. He told me about it. I sent one of my staff, my assistant superintendent in charge of programs, out to see the program, what Sheriff Swanson was doing, to see we could kind of replicate what was good, but also to see the Frederick Douglass program, which is a project, which is why I brought it here. And now I'm helping Marc reach out to sheriffs that I know will be interested. It's not just like for everybody, right? You have to be the one, a type of facility and sheriff that's going to be interested in providing this type of, and treat your those that are inside your facility. I mean, like, you know, I'm not here to punish the people that are with me, right? I'm here to hold them in custody as ordered by the courts, but also to care for them. That's my job. In no way am I punishing them. I'm just here to care for them and prepare them for reentry. That's what I do. And this helps with that as well, and helps the public understand what our roles are here in a good facility that does good corrections.
You know, a little earlier, Marc shared some of the reaction and feedback that he's observed. Peter, what have you noticed from the participants at both levels from their participation in the visitation project?
Yeah, I mean, listen, every time I haven't had a person go away from this saying, you know, I didn't learn something and I didn't grow from this experience. Every single person has. They continue to speak about the program on the outside. I mean, that's one of the best things that I think is also good for the sheriff's side, the facility side, is that people will speak about their experience to the community and then spread that word to the community about what a well-run facility, an orderly facility, a clean facility, a programmatic facility, a humane facility can be, right? That's something that I think is really valuable to bring out there. But for those that are inside, again, I've seen the changes in them. You know, I've seen, you know, even the way we, you know, let me just say this. At the beginning, it's always difficult to get as many of the participants from the outside sometimes. These are just part of the growing pains. And so we had our first session, And then as we were struggling with that second session, we had to postpone it and just say, we'll just skip on to our third session so we can make sure we have enough participants from the outside. This is very natural with every program. And the fact is that, you know, even if there was going to be a struggle with that third program, we couldn't postpone that because the individuals inside were really eager to do it, right? And they would have been devastated not to participate in this next one. Each time they say that the meeting was better than the other ones before, each time. So I think that they're also becoming more comfortable in their growth. And we've even allowed people that have been outside, made a mistake. I think this is something of which I'm very proud. We had a cohort member that was inside, went outside, made a mistake, you know, was surrendered on their probation or parole, came back inside, and we approached, because he was a great member of this cohort, and approached him about what his experience was. And you know, he owned up to his failures, and we put him right back into that cohort again, right? So we're not saying, hey, you messed up, we're not going to share you with anyone. You made a mistake, you owned up to it, and you can go back. Now, if he hadn't owned up to it, that might be a different story. But the fact is, that's kind of how we run our facility. It was kind of a great moment because he is one of the best participants in this. And it also goes to show the struggles that they face when they get back outside. You know, if they don't have appropriate housing or supports or medication-assisted treatments or mental health supports, these are the things that these individuals inside that are such amazing people when you engage with them inside can struggle with when they get back outside. And that's the real worry that I have as these people that I think are pretty, you know, just a positive, you know, in some ways admirable people that are overcoming many obstacles in their lives, go back outside and then run into the barriers that will provide those obstacles. They may not be able to overcome the next time as well.
Many challenges indeed.
That's right.
Marc, looking back from the start, what are some of your thoughts and observations of what you and others have accomplished and where the project is now?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm incredibly proud and happy with our progress, in particular when you think that we launched in December 2019, really kind of got going in January 2020. And then, of course, starting in March 2020, everything shut down. And a prisoner jail was the last place anyone in their right mind would ever want to go. And also, I want to say that, you know, the COVID crisis was an absolute human rights catastrophe in prisons and jails, where it was spreading like on petri dishes, and it was just really, really difficult and challenging. But as society opened up, we started, and that started in summer of 2021, and then sort of in fits and starts thereafter. But now we've really hit high gear and are expanding so rapidly. And it's been beautiful. You know, every place where we start, I always say, just like I did to the sheriff here, this is a pilot. If you don't like the program, you can stop it. I mean, it's your place. You have full authority. I respect that authority. Every single place, and I want to knock on wood because I don't want to jinx anything, but it has continued, it has expanded, it has thrived. The leaders of it have said, you know, I want to help you get it to more places. And that's been beautiful. I knew from before I started, because I've been doing this work for quite a while now, and I've been doing it, you know, I brought in thousands of people into the prisons and jails in the DC area, and, you know, teach a course where I bring students in. I've taught inside where I have mixed classes. I know that this is a magical formula that allows people to see themselves, to see each other in a new way. But to be able to implement it, to be able to create a nonprofit organization that depends entirely on philanthropy and philanthropic support from foundations and individuals, I didn't know for sure if that would succeed. But we've been thriving because people see that this works, that there is a better way than just locking people up, throwing away the key, or just sitting at home and watching Law and Order shows that demonize people. When you humanize people, we all benefit as a society. And I'm just really excited that this organization is actually making it happen and expanding rapidly, and that it's succeeding so far everywhere we go.
Terrific. No, and Peter is a wonderful example of word of mouth going along with both receiving and extending it to others, of how powerful and valuable this opportunity is. Very briefly, Marc, what are some upcoming plans?
Well, we have a number of states where we'll be starting. And actually, Peter, I haven't told you this, but after our meeting in DC, that was just last week, we already have our first date in Texas. We'll be starting there on March 27th. That's all been arranged really quickly, and I'm so excited that the
That's
sheriff
great.
there.
I told you he'd be a great person. You know,
You're
I mean,
right.
people think that, you know, sheriffs from Texas or elsewhere in the country are, you know, not like what we do here, and they might have different methods, but I knew that his heart was a good heart and that he would want to do something like this. I'm really excited for that. That'll be
so
a
excited.
really great experience for
Yeah.
the people in that county, Tarrant County, but as well as for the incarcerated population. Good for you.
Yeah, no, well, thank you for that, for making it happen. So that's in Fort Worth, you know, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, major metropolitan area. I'm excited to get that going. We're also starting soon in a number of states where we've received approval. We start actually tomorrow in Ohio. So I'm about to get on a plane later this afternoon to go there and start our program there tomorrow. We're going, and that'll be in 2 sites, one in the Columbus area, one in the Cleveland area. We've gotten permission from Connecticut, from Pennsylvania through their departments of corrections. And we're in conversations to start soon, meaning later this year, in Arizona, in Hawaii, believe it or not. And we're working with several potential partnerships in California. We want to do some in the Pacific Northwest. It's spreading quickly. At this point, we're also trying to pace ourselves. We're a relatively small team, small organization. Our budget's just under $1 million a year, but we're expanding rapidly. And to be able to do more, of course, we need to raise more. And we, you know, have some good philanthropic partners, but need more in order to really be able to expand. But, you know, I'd like to see a day within a few years where, again, we're in the majority of states, but also where, you know, every law student has visited a prison. I think it should be almost required for somebody who goes into the field of law. I think that any person who grapples with these issues in a way should have the opportunity that's nearby, accessible, to actually experience something that they've read about, something that they've watched on TV or in a movie. I think that church faith communities of all kinds should go together in groups. We're also looking to develop corporate sponsorships and work with companies where they bring people in. I can give one example. Dick's Sporting Goods, we've worked with a bit, where they've had teams of employees come in. There's one situation in the Florida area where Dick's Sporting Goods made what I think is a correct, very principled decision, that they were going to hire formerly incarcerated people. Well, there was a little bit of resistance and pushback from other employees who were not so comfortable with that. And they said, okay, well, why don't you actually participate in a Douglass Project visit to a prison? And they sent a group, a dedicated group that was of Dick's Sporting Goods employees. And those who went in came back and said, this is fantastic. What great people. Now we're on board. We want to do this. We support this. So there are a lot of ways I think that companies can be benefiting from this work for their employees and for the company overall. And we want to just expand in all directions. I'd love to see a world where, you know, tens of thousands of people a year are visiting a prison.
Wonderful.
The beautiful thing about Marc's process, Jay, is that it can be like, we will be self-sustaining shortly, right? I mean, and they will be helping with some of the people, but we'll be running the sessions ourselves. So it's something that we can continue to do without Marc having to flying around the country, which he does routinely. The poor guy is always on a plane, and it's exhausting. And I think, and by the way, we just took a photo as we were doing this meeting with Sheriff Bill Wayborn of Tarrant County. So we'll hopefully send that, and you guys can hopefully run this to see what a real Texas sheriff looks like, next to a couple of guys from the Northeast, and to see what a sheriff with a good heart looks like from the rest of the country, even in red states that care about these people too. I think Marc said one other thing too, is getting more prosecutors involved, which is something our DA does routinely. We always host tours of new prosecutors. But one of the other things we're actually doing is that we started doing this, and I think that the project really thought it was a great idea. They were interested in piloting it too, is getting police to come inside to engage with the individuals inside, which I think in one ways, a lot of police understand these are not such bad people because they engage with them at that level. They've done something bad, but they're not bad people necessarily, especially when they're healthy and strong and their needs are being addressed. But For the inside participants, it's important to see a police officer or chief. We've already had a number of police chiefs in here there, and not an adversarial, threatening way, but a way that wants to understand them in a way. So I think the benefit is always good for the law enforcement side, but it's almost really more important for the incarcerated side, so they can see that law enforcement does care about them, and they're not just people that are always looking to lock them up.
Thank you for adding that. Well, unfortunately, we have to wrap up. There's so much more we could talk about, go on with. Want to thank you both again for being here. We'll have a website of the project and the credits, contact information for Middlesex Jail and House of Corrections for those who are interested in finding out more and possibly participating as well. But
yeah, I just want to
now,
encourage our listeners and viewers, Jay, to join a visit. There's no better way to understand and appreciate this work than to come inside. It's easily available to those who are in the greater Boston area. It's an incredible experience. It's one that they will find inspiring and possibly life-changing in a great way.
Frederick Douglass Project and sign up, right, Mark? That's all you got to do.
Right.
And then we can fit you in sometime in the future, hopefully, right?
DouglassProject.org, sign up for a visit. Please
terrific. I look forward to spreading the
Me too,
word
Jay.
as well. Thank you both again. And I also want to thank those of you watching for joining us, and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.